You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. I told you the Proud Boys are a dangerous far right-wing white supremacist group, and they have vowed that they will actually kill people. Watch this video.
This country has seen a rise in violence by white supremacists.
A hate group known as the Proud Boys.
Knock the crap out of them, would you? Seriously, very fine people on both sides.
Maybe you should have been roughed up.
The FBI said the Proud Boys are responsible for some of the violence in Portland and elsewhere.
Right-wing extremists were linked to at least 50 murders last year.
They do supposedly like me.
When pressed today at the White House on this very issue, Kayleigh McEnany just sat there, lied her ass off. Watch this.
Of this group give voice to these misogynistic, Islamophobic, anti-Semitic, anti-immigrant views. They're a despicable group by pretty much anyone's standards. So when the president was asked about them and you say he denounced them, that's what you're insisting that he did on the debate stage the other night. If that's the case, then why are they celebrating what the president said on the debate stage in front of millions of people?
Well, I don't speak for that group, so I'm not sure why you're asking me why they're saying a certain thing.
If someone denounced you, you probably wouldn't put it on a T-shirt and make badges of it, right?
The president did denounce them. He was asked, will you tell them to stand down? He said, sure, and went on to stand.
Which seems like an instruction.
He said, stand back, and then just yesterday when he was asked, he said specifically, stand down, a synonym with stand back, and the president said, sure, when asked by the moderator whether they should stand down. So again, it's really interesting, too, to see that the media seems to be the only one putting the names of these groups into headlines, into media reporting. He didn't know who the Proud Boys were. The first time I heard of them was in the debate, but the media continues to put these names into circulation and give them a lot of public attention.
He was given about 12 hours, more than that, since from the debate from when he was asked to clarify yesterday. And he didn't come out and clarify yesterday. Instead, he did what you did when John asked you to unambiguously denounce these groups. You just pointed to past things that you've said. You can't, I just don't understand why you knew you were going to get these questions and you don't have a statement ready to just say, we do unambiguously denounce these groups.
And you know what is, do you know why people have lost trust in the media? There was a reporter from your network yesterday, and in a tweet said, quote, the president.
I'm asking you a question. I don't even know what you're going to bring up, but that has nothing to do with what I'm asking you right now.
I sat here when you lobbed your partisan attack question, so you will allow me to give an answer. The president and someone from your network said yesterday in a tweet, the president dodged a question about white supremacy. That was a tweet from a CNN reporter. The president specifically, verbatim, was asked yesterday, white supremacy, do you denounce them? To which he responded, I have always denounced any form of that. Those are the facts. And CNN, I know that truth is of no moment to your network, but those are the facts.
They're not the facts. Why are Republicans are calling on the president to be more forceful? His own party.
Want to see how these racist Proud Boys operate? This one posted this video today.
I don't know if a lot of y'all understand this or not, but come November, there's a war coming. Whoever wins, and it's down to two. We already know this. Third party, they don't even matter. It's down to two. One or the other is going to win. As a certain supporter, we know which one's going to win. Trump 2020. But there's a thing about it. The reason why I say there's a war coming is because if Trump wins, Black Lives Matter and all them other Antifa dumbasses are going to try to start war. We ready. Don't worry. We ready. Us rednecks and stuff, we ready for y'all. But if Biden wins, we coming. And we coming strong.
All right, folks, let's bring in my panel. Eric Savage Wilson, host Savage Politics Podcast. Dr. Greg Carr, chair, Department of Afro-American Studies, Howard University. REECIE COLBERT, Black Women's Views. And joining me, Dr. Frederick Haynes III. He is senior pastor, Friendship West Baptist Church in Dallas. the thing that I was just laying out on MSNBC, Freddie, is that when we talk about what's going on here, all these folk are all caught up in, oh, are you going to release a statement? Are you going to say this here? No, 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 your actions. When the man stands last night, if y'all got that clip, get it ready. When the man stands up and condemns Congresswoman Ilhan Omar and then blasts refugees and then say, how does she tell us what to do in our country? She's an American. So what Donald Trump is saying to those white folks in Minnesota, a supposed blue state, which he almost won in 2016, and because in rural Minnesota, they are very far right wing. What he is saying is to that black Muslim congresswoman, you ain't one of us. This is our white country. That's what Donald Trump is saying in Minnesota and Wisconsin and Pennsylvania and all across this nation. Freddie, you're on mute. You're on mute.
The other day.
There we go. There we go. Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, the other day, this went from being a cold civil war where there was, a civil war that was undeclared. He sounded the bugle on Tuesday night during his debate. And of course, as you just pointed out, thank you for that, whenever he wants to vehemently denounce or speak to an issue, he's quite articulate for him. Of course, he becomes real inarticulate when it comes to denouncing white supremacy. But we get that because you're not going to denounce what you already are. And so what he is doing, he has sounded the bugle. The bugle basically is a war cry, and he is setting the stage for what has been a divided country, a cold civil war, to now become basically a reenactment of the 1860s. And so all of this is being done by the racist in chief. His people know when he is calling for them to speak up, and not only speak up, but to take arms. And so you've given us the clear evidence right there that they have heard their commander-in-chief declare war, and they have specifically labeled the enemy as people of color, people who are black, people who are part of Antifa, of course, but all of that is the result of hearing from their commander-in-chief. The war has been declared.
This is last night. This is what I'm talking about. This is last night, y'all, in Minnesota. Listen to what this white supremacist says.
We've got to change it. Who's going to do what we've done for you? Right? Another massive issue for Minnesota is the election of Joe Biden's plan to inundate your state with a historic flood of refugees. Biden and crazy Bernie Sanders have agreed on a manifesto. Did you see last night? I didn't agree. After the show, they said, oh, actually, he did. Oh, great. They fact-checked. They found out he made a mistake, slight mistake. It's the worst thing you've ever seen. But they pledged a 700% increase in refugees. 700%. Congratulations, Minnesota. Congratulations. Now, and what about Omar, where she gets caught harvesting? What the hell is going on? I hope your U.S. attorney is involved. What is going on with Omar? I've been reading these reports for 2 years about how corrupt and crooked she is. Let's get with it. Let's get with it. I mean, frankly, harvesting's terrible, but it's the least of the things that she has done. How the hell? Then she tells us how to run our country. Can you believe it? How the hell did Minnesota elect her? What the hell is wrong with you people? Right? What the hell happened? These guys in the stand up. Are you a big fan of Omar? I don't think so. Stand up. Look at this guy. It looks like nobody's going to fight him. I don't think you're a big fan of Omar, right? No, she's been crooked for a long time. This is the least of it. It's time. And you know what? AOC also. It's time. It's time. You take a look at what the corruption, the disgusting corruption. 700% increase, refugees coming from the most dangerous places in the world, including Yemen, Syria, and your favorite country, Somalia, right? You love Somalia. This guy loves Somalia. Biden will turn Minnesota into a refugee camp, and he said that. Overwhelming public resources, overcrowding schools, and inundating your hospitals. You know that.
That's real clear, Greg Carr.
I love it, man. I'm embracing it with both hands. Finally, after 203rd centuries, we're going to get this over with. In the words of Donald Trump, it's time. I embrace Donald John Trump. I embrace every racist white nationalist terrorist who was in Duluth, Minnesota. This is the 100th anniversary of the lynching of 3 young brothers who were working with the traveling circus in Duluth. There's a reason he was in Duluth, Minnesota last night. I embrace it. I embrace his chief propagandist, McEnany, who was moved from white nationalists to white nationalist terrorists. That's what you do with propaganda. Agent of Goebbels. This is Nazi Germany. So in the words of Donald John Trump, it's time. When Donald Trump says, let's get with it, that's the same spirit and energy he brought to what he said to Joe Biden and Chris Wallace and the country. Stand by. These aren't misstatements. Now, the words there that seem coherent was written by Stephen Miller, I have no doubt. The little dwarf, the gnomish dwarf that sits in the White House spewing his hatred. It's time. It's time to break their political backs. When McEnany asked that reporter whether she told her she was being a partisan, I absolutely embrace and agree with that. She was being partisan. Here's the partisanship, human beings. It's human beings versus white nationalist terrorists. The line is clear. Make a choice. It's time.
REECIE, this is also Trump last night. And the crazy thing is when you talk about low-income housing, hey, that's a whole bunch of white folks. But that's not what they think when he says stuff like this.
Through Operation Warp Speed, we will develop and distribute a vaccine in record time. It's going to be very, very soon. And before the end of the year, maybe sooner than that. On November 3rd, Minnesota will decide whether we end this pandemic, defeat the virus, and return to record prosperity. Either way, we're returning. Either way. We're going to have the vaccine. We're rounding the turn. Well, whether we allow Joe Biden to kill the recovery, you know, he wants a shutdown. This guy says, let's shut it down. A lot of death caused by shutdown. Depression, death, drugs, alcoholism. Horrendous family fights, horrendous family fights. And he wants to destroy those suburbs by abolishing single-family zoning. All of these things are just a horrible thing, what he wants to do. And I think he's going to do it because he's not smart enough to understand that the other side has big problems. You know, we did something great. We had the greatest economy in history, and we had to close it down because we would have lost millions of lives. And now we're opening it up. And
that he wants to destroy suburbs. REECIE, what he's saying is white people. He wants to bring in those colored folk in your neighborhoods.
It's absurd. I mean, we already lived through 8 years of the Obama-Biden administration. Did the suburbs get destroyed by then? No, the suburbs were destroyed by the housing market crash that was caused by the Republicans and George W. Bush and his policies. Listen, I might be in the minority here. I'm not concerned about these white nationalist punks like the Proud Boys and all these other people, because to be honest, and I'm not saying this to be cruel, they're after the white folks. If you notice, they up in Portland and Seattle and these other white cities acting a doggone fool. They're not coming to Watts. They're not even coming to D.C. with that, because I remember when they had the little white nationalist parade in D.C., they were flanked by police officers. They had their face completely covered up, and they marched their ass into the Target parking lot and went home very quietly. So they're not really about that action. What I'm concerned about is the white nationalist administration. This is not an infiltration. This is a complete takeover. And they're being blatant about it. And another 4 years is going to cause unprecedented damage to our communities. These punks with these guns and these YouTube videos, screw them. It's the president who's a clear and present danger to this entire country.
But Erica,
and white folks should be concerned because the Proud Boys feel more comfortable going after them than they do going after us. So the solution to that is to overwhelmingly elect Joe Biden and take the reins out of Donald Trump and his white nationalist government.
But Erica, here's why I got to push back on REECIE there. Because of what I said about that FBI report, I want you and Freddy Haynes to speak to this. Because when they say white supremacists have infiltrated the military and law enforcement. We saw what happened in Kenosha where law enforcement, they threw bottles of water at Kyle Rittenhouse and those white guys with guns. There are other videos where the cops in Portland were telling the Proud Boys, you know what, we glad you guys are out here, march on this side of the street. And so the problem is when you have white supremacists now with badges and guns. This is not just the administration. The issue is now it's in law enforcement. Now they're in our neighborhoods. When that group uncovered, we had the woman on when they uncovered that Facebook group, all the racist comments that were being said in that private Facebook group. When you've had white cops who've been fired in Florida, in San Francisco, Philadelphia, St. Louis, different parts of the country. That's what's going on because the Proud Boys, they are targeting those kind of people, white men and white women who are in law enforcement and the military.
Right, Roland. And as I've mentioned on this show numerous times, I am a veteran of the United States Air Force. And so we were sworn an oath. I swore an oath over 20 years ago to protect this country from all enemies, both foreign and domestic. And that is exactly what Donald John Trump, since he wants to drag in the refugee piece, Donald John Trump Jr., he is the latter. He is, in fact, a domestic terrorist. When we look at the way that he's really been allowed to behave, he and his regime, it is the resurrection and redressing of George Wallace. George Wallace had executive authority over the state of Alabama, while 45 has, because of his stolen Russian seat, he has authority over federal agencies. And so that 2006 FBI report that you referenced, Roland, did in fact lay out that there is an infiltration that was actively happening in law enforcement and military. And now we've seen recruitment efforts to really dovetail this into the other piece. Now we've seen that these white supremacist punk groups, that they have started bringing in recruiting folks who are veterans, folks who are retired law enforcement. So it all fits together. It all melds together. What I believe we, the people, have to demonstratively do to push back against this. I will agree absolutely with my sister REECIE said around overperforming. That is turning out at the ballot box. And the fact that this mediocre white man came on his YouTube, TikTok channel, whatever it was, to say that he, in fact, is declaring war, he's doing that because he has been emboldened and empowered by a racist regime who has the son of a Klansman sitting at the head of the table.
See, Freddie, the reason, here's the deal. I'm not freaking out by the Boogaloo Boys and the Proud Boys. The issue is this here. Take a Richard Spencer. He went to what? Private school, St. Mark in Dallas.
Yeah.
Grew up in Highland Park in Dallas. Right. Where's Highland Park? That's where SMU is. That's where the Bush Library is. That's where basically your white money in Dallas is. And so you have what we're dealing with here, and I've been saying this since 2009. We're dealing with white fear. This is not a Trump issue, people. You had better be prepared for the next 50 years because they cannot handle the fact that America is marching towards a multicultural America, and they know you got to share power, you got to share resources, and they are like, no, we are not used to this, and that is what Trump is speaking to.
Thank you. And that's why white supremacy is not just the Proud Boys. White supremacy has to do with systems of the economy, political systems that control resources. And so we have to be ready to fight on two fronts. Of course, we've got to be aware, keep our eyes open for, the Proud Boys and their ilk. Roland, I'll tell you, I have a member of my church who just finished going through the police academy and shared with me that a Proud Boy was a part of his graduation class. So this person was able to make it through a police training program, and now he is loose on the streets. And so that's someone for us to be concerned about, because as your guest said, it's not just infiltration, it's a takeover. So on one level, we've got to keep our eyes open to the fact that these clowns have been emboldened by their racist commander-in-chief. At the same time, we have to be aware of the policies of white supremacy that have kept the structure of the United States in place. And so when you're talking about a multicultural America, when you're talking about in less than 20 or 30 years, we're going to be, white people will no longer be in the majority. That is something they are afraid of, because white fear, is rooted in white guilt. They know the hell they put us through. They know the damage they've caused to us. And so their whole thing is, if black folk decide to do to us what we've done to them, then we are in trouble. So their white fear is rooted in their white guilt. And so as a consequence, they're doing everything they can right now to reinforce the infrastructure of white supremacy. That's why our racist commander-in-chief decides to forget protocol and let's not do what was done in 2016. We're going to have this person who is going to undermine everything the notorious RBG stood for. We're going to place her in as soon as possible. That's why they are infiltrating and taking over the appointments of judgeships across the country, because they're trying to reinforce the structure of white supremacy. And so on one level, we got to keep our eyes out on these Proud Boys and be ready for them. At the same time, we've got to understand, like my sister just said, we got to handle our business at the polls up through November 3rd, and then be ready for a fight after November 3rd, and then be ready to do all we can to completely dismantle systems of white supremacy after January 20th.
All right, folks, back to our Roland Unfiltered video in just one moment. All right, folks at Seek.com, of course, they black-owned company founded by Mary Spiel. They have a couple of great products that you can actually get. This is their VR headset. This headset, folks, allows for you to actually take your cell phone, pop it right into here, close it up, and then you can actually watch the VR content, the virtual reality content on Seek.com right there through your phone. Actually, it's pretty cool. You can also look at 360-degree video from other websites as well, and it puts you literally right there where the video was shot. And so they have this particular headset right here. They also have their 360-degree 4D headphones. And so these headphones right here, which are Bluetooth. Also, they have the headset, which you use for when you, if you're for all you gamers out there. And then, of course, it has this amazing sound, really, which actually covers around. Typically, you just have the headphones just right here, but this actually has a sound that goes all around your head. I love these headphones. Love listening to music with them and watching videos as well. And so, all you got to do, folks, is go to Seek.com, Seek.com. Use the promo code RMVIP2020. That's RMVIP2020 to actually try these out. And so that's what we want you to do. All right, folks. So again, go to Seek.com.